How are we doing, guys? All right, what I wanted to speak to you about today was something from my experience that's something I've not dealt with that's been kind of like essentially weighting me down mentally and emotionally. It's not like a big deal, like it's not a big drama, and it doesn't have to be when I apply this to you, guys. It doesn't have to be necessarily something really big, but these kind of like things that we've got going on in our head, sort of like unfinished sort of chapters or whatever, they kind of emotionally hold us back because they all kind of like add up. And it's a little bit like if you were to imagine picking up a heavy kettlebell and walking around with this heavy kettlebell all the time, everywhere. It's just unfinished business weights you down. So two things I've been putting off for a long time that I've recently addressed. Number one is both health elements. So if you're busy like I am, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I feel like my time has got to get distributed towards family life and being a provider. So with my business, all right. And then priorities after that is serving everyone within the business and the tribe and the people that follow all our stuff. And then I put myself last. And I put myself last for a long time, and had some detrimental effects, which I've talked about in other videos. But what I wanted to talk about today was not making time to get things sorted. So I've been putting off going to the doctors for, with my wrist. I've had a wrist injury for a few years, all right? Now, when I first did it, it wasn't that bad. It would come and go, and it would just affect me doing things like, power cleans, Olympic lifting, overhead, anything where I was kind of bending my wrist back at this angle. It would affect. It's my other wrist actually, but I wouldn't be able to do it in the gym. It would piss me off. Like I've not been able to bench press for periods at a time because I can't hold the bar like that. Okay, I can't bend my wrist back to hold it, or do press ups, or do them on my knuckles, things like that. So it just weights me down emotionally. It's like a frustration feeling, and what we've got to ask ourselves is what's that taking away from the energy that we could be focusing into things that are moving us forward. So if that negative energy wasn't going into being pissed off and frustrated about a wrist injury, if we get that injury addressed, then that energy then can get channeled into something more positive. And I've just been today, seen a specialist about it. Fucking fantastic. It didn't take any time at all. But the point was, I was putting off going. I was just putting off going. I was just like, it takes me, 20 minutes on the phone to book in at the doctor's. I'm going to have to go and take the time out of work to go down and have the appointment. And I've just put myself last in a point where I was like, all my time and energy and effort needs to focus on my family and it needs to focus on my business. And that's just an attitude thing, and it's fucking wrong. We need to look after ourselves. And now, even though I've only just been for the appointment, I feel like I've achieved something. I feel like I've got this emotional energy that has been freed up. So just have a think about what that thing might be for you. So another thing I started doing was cleaning up after myself in my. So say Michelle does like the washing and all that stuff, and she might leave my clothes on my bed. So for me to put them then into different drawers where I want my training stuff, my work stuff, my undies, my socks, smart clothes, things like that. So she'd maybe do that on a Sunday and then I'd put them down the side of the bed and just leave them there for a few days. And I'm like, no, I'm going to fucking put them clothes away like the minute they get put on the bed, or certainly that same day. That's the emotional energy's been freed up. I did another video once where I talked about cleaning out your car. I couldn't find the locking wheel nut, and it took me bloody an hour to clean the car out and find it. And it's every time you get in your car, it's a mess. What's the kind of like implications of that kind of mess in your brain, that kind of unfinished business, that feeling of just being a little bit frustrated. So yeah, what I kind of try and do now is I just sort of go through things in my life. And like I said, they don't always have to be like big crazy things. It might be just like a bill that you need to ring up and sort out that you've been misbilled somehow, or I don't know, it might be just things along those lines. It might be that you need to go to the doctor and get something you're worried about, or something that's taking emotional energy, just get a checkup on it, or book him at the doctor's. And it's just a case of identifying what these things are. It might be that you're frustrated, that you're feeling lethargic, you're feeling low on energy, and you feel, you're aware that you've gained some weight and you want to get shut of that weight. Well, focus on what you can do to do that. Create a plan and execute on that plan and start to move yourself forward. And guys, you'll feel like an absolute ton better.